Pleasure to welcome you all to the 7th edition of India Water Week, a 5-day conference on water with its overall theme as water security for sustainable development with equity. We have our first technical session on establishing a collaborative water governance regime. And we have with us our session chair, Dr. Alok Rawat. He has served Sir has served as Director Joint Secretary in Ministry of Defence and Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, Secretary UPSC, Secretary Coordination and Public Grievances in the Cabinet Secretary and Secretary in Ministry of Water Resources, River Development and Ganga Rejuvenation. Can we have a huge round of applause for our session chair, Shri Alok Rawat? Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. Our session co-chair, Dr. Shamla Kumar Sarkar, Senior Director, Water Resources, TERI. He will be joining us online. He's presently the Senior Director, Natural Resource and Climate. He's a doctorate in economics from the State University of New York, Stony Brook, New York. Dr. S.K. Sarkar is working as a Director, Water Resources Division, TERI since September 2014. Dr. Sarkar worked as a secretary to the Government of India in the Ministry of Water Resources during 2013, in the Department of Personnel and Training during 2013 to 14 and 2007 to 2013, and Ministry of Finance Department of Economics Affairs during 1994 and 97. Can we please add Mr. Sarkar? So now I request our chairman, Dr. Alok Rawat, to please share few words as his opening remarks. Ma'am,
Good morning to the distinguished audience, which may be a bit sparse in number as of now. Maybe they know all the speakers are going to be so boring and sleep inducing that number of participants haven't come. But I view it that when you distill whiskey from sugarcane, the best brand is only little in quantity, and that is the top premium whiskey. So the audience over here is the top distillate who are present over here. Anyway, now one small correction. I am very grateful to the organizers for awarding me an honorary doctorate. I am not Dr. Alok Rawat, I am only MPhil Alok Rawat. But anyway, thanks all the same. And Shamal is supposed to be joining through video link. There are certain issues, but meanwhile, we should go ahead. And may I request the Ma'am Perrine to invite the most distinguished gentleman.
Sure, sir. So to begin with, I firstly would like to inform you that today we have back-to-back sessions, so I request all the presenters to please stick to the time limit. Each presenter will get 10 minutes each to present the paper. Starting, I now invite Mr. Devendra Joshi, ex-scientist, CG, WB, and Saurabh Pahar, technical advisor, water security and climate adaptation in rural India, to please come up on the stage. Can we have a huge round of applause for them, please? They'll be presenting their paper on Understanding the challenges for sustainability of groundwater resources and its recharge mechanism with the help of PRS model developed via Indo-German bilateral project, water security and climate adaptation in rural India.
Thank you. So we start off now. We start off with our
So I request all the presenters to please come up on the stage and join us. Mr. Gurunathan A, Program Leader, Dhan Foundation, Madurai, India. Mr. Amit Mishra, Vice President. Mr. Nishir Malhotra, Scientist, Central Water and Power Research Station. May I invite Mr. Neeraj Kumar Sharma, DD, CWG Bhopal, to please come up on the stage.
Let's start the session. As already mentioned over the podium, the time allotted is 10 minutes. 10 may go to 12 minutes, but please don't let the time go to 21 minutes. That's my request because after 10 minutes, I'll be tapping on the table to remind that 2 minutes are left. Okay, our first learned speaker will be Sri Amit Mishra, Vice President of Vasar Labs, and the topic would be using the smart technology in the field of water governance, going from field to real time. Over to Sri Amit Mishra.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you for esteemed panel to invite us here and give us a chance to talk about how technology interventions are a key to achieve resilience. So when we talk about water management, it's primarily into multiple fragments. Okay, understand who all the users, right? We all are users of water resource system. Why? Because we need water. We are the end users, right? And as an end user, it's always important for us to understand how much water we have. Say, for example, if I will ask any of you how much water you have at your home, probably the answer would be not known to anyone. The reason is because water is not at one place. That would be probably in your overhead tanks. That would be probably in underground storage. That would be inside your fridge, on your table. And sometimes if you want to go extensively, it could be inside your food products as well, right? So the water footprints which we consume are very extensive. So for any of us, it's practically not possible to understand it. So the question comes, understand this at a state level, how the water will be managed, okay? And now you understand how the water resource travels across multiple, steps towards starting from its origin to its end user, right? So if you see, I'm in Delhi, so I will talk about River Ganga. So say Ganga starts from Himalayan regions, it receives water from snow melts, cross multiple states, then goes finally into Bay of Bengal, right? So between this journey, it receives water from snow, primary, then it receives water from rain, then it receives water which are used in irrigation, agriculture runoff, and ultimately it basically goes into the Bay of Bengal. Within this duration, it crosses multiple states, around 5 to 6 states, and all these states have their own claim of water because they also state owns the water. So just in perspective, I want to clarify that water resources are a state of and matter of a state. So they own the water. So what to do when the rivers are crossing the states? The traditional thing, what happens is a dispute. And we see in the news that there are many disputes coming on between the tribunals for different river basins. So now the problem is how you can basically tackle these things. And to tackle these things, the most important thing what we can do is to have one water resource information system which can help you. And as a Vassar Labs, we are working on the climate tech, which focus on bringing all the data together and help you achieve one unified water resource system which can help you out. May I have the slide controls? Can I have the slide controls? Okay. Thank you. Okay. So let's talk about what's happening right now. It's not working, seems like. Okay. So what you see on the right now on the screen is what's happening with respect to the climate change. The things happening are the events related to weather and water is increasing, whether you face flood or a drought. And that's why we say that water is everybody's business. All of us sitting here are related to water and have to do something with the water. And with respect to that, what exactly the stakeholders are distributed? Let's have a look. So the first level, if you see, they are the central water body. We already have people from central ministry here. So they are the one who are basically looking at this resources as a holistic thing, but they don't own it. Who owns it? It's owned by the state. So you see, there is a river basin organization, which the river has multiple states, and a state organization if river flows and conclude within one state. But they are also not owner of water. Who is the owner? Then it goes to functions. Okay. Now the functions can be your water resource department functions like distribution, municipality, agriculture, irrigation, your aquaculture, animal husbandry, industrial. All are the stakeholders of water. And then environment. All if you combine, then you understand that how much disputed system it is because water resource is one. When the water resource you receive, it doesn't tells you who gonna get it. So it means you have to translate into different stakeholders as per their allocation, as per the demand, and then you have to conclude how the water resources will be distributed. And for that, the unified system is required. The region is because citizens are at the core of the whole system, and it's ultimately operated by various machineries around it. Various, somewhere around 90 to 20 departments are basically working day and night to ensure that water supply are consistent. So now let's understand what technology can do. So technology can bring all of the data together via various systems like IoT, satellite. And once it does so, we have to achieve resilience. The reason is because once you know water, almost half of the sustainable development goals you are able to meet. So for that example, I will show you one system, which is Andhra Pradesh Water Resource Information Management System right now displaying here. What it does, it brings all the data through sensor, through satellite, through hydrological models, and then puts it into one system so you know how much water you have right now. If you see on the top, you can see water available across a state. So you can see this water, how much they have right now. And once they know water, then they can distribute it. Let's go next. So what you have seen is the state volumes. Then let's talk about village. So village, they have to understand how much water they have for their irrigation. So it means they have to do the runoff, they have to understand their potential, they have to understand how much hydrological efficiency they can achieve, they can do the hydrological model. So this platform is a village warrants, which allows everybody to become a hydrologist. You don't need any knowledge. You go to platform, put your location, and you are done. Next is irrigation. See what happens in irrigation. So the project which you are seeing right now on the screen is Kaleshwaram Lift Irrigation Project. So here we have irrigation. So we are assessing demand from satellite, supply system through IoT, and then harmonizing the entire system to give one output, which is how much water is required at what place and how to deliver it. Now let's going next. This is irrigation efficiency. Once water is delivered, then you have to understand what actually happened, whether the field has got it or not. So you need to see water plus its efficiency. And then the next stage, okay. Sometimes it's getting stuck. Okay, next is the risk associated with water. When we have water, we have risk which is flood. So you have to understand risk at the higher level. So this is the river basin which you are seeing right now. Then you have to see at a specific location level, like what you are seeing is at Kochi airport right now. And then you also have to see at the individual property level. So what you are seeing right now at a one individual manufacturing unit level. So how the water will increase and decrease with respect to various changes. And if you want to protect it or you want to build a structure, how much that will be protected. So this is on the water risk side. With that, I will conclude my talk here within a limit of 10 minutes. I think I am on it. I think probably very much on time. So with that, I'll conclude that the technology, if we have, and if we are building a unified water resource information management and system, it not only just gives us an edge to manage the water resources better, but also it allows us to be transparent in terms of governance. So if everybody knows about how much water they have, how much they were entitled to, and how they are getting it, how the water is getting delivered to them, then whatever disputes we have today among different stakeholders in terms of industries, in terms of transboundary rivers, that can be concluded. And we can move toward resilience with a better irrigation efficiency, better distribution efficiency, and better planning at village level to make sure that our villages are sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I now invite Mr. Devendra Joshi, ex-scientist, CGWB, and Saurabh Pahari, Technical Advisor, Water Security and Climate Adaptation in Rural India, to please present. Thank you so much.
Honorable Chair, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to all of you. I'm Saurabh Pahari, working on behalf of the German International Cooperation. And today, can we have the presentation, please? And the slide change also. And slide changes also. Oh, thank you. Okay, by the time it comes in, so the model that we are going to present here today jointly along with Mr. Devendra Joshi, this is a model which has been developed or conceived from one of the pilot projects of GIZ India and Ministry of Rural Development. That's a bilateral cooperation project, namely water security and climate adaptation in rural India. So the model that has been developed, the entire workshop is on that water security, but basically on how groundwater resources, the most important resources, how we can institutionalize this particular model with the Ministry of Rural Development, towards which a pilot was undertaken in the state of Madhya Pradesh, followed which it was scaled up in the entire state of Madhya Pradesh, and now it's going to be replicated along with the Ministry of Rural Development also. So the entire process of institutionalizing, conceiving these processes would be explained, now being taken up by Mr. Devendra Joshi. Handing over to him. Thank you.
इसको चेंज करना है। मैं देवेंद्र जोशी हूँ। I am Devendra Joshi, scientist of Central Government Board. With my experience and working in the two model studies in Balwani and Tikamgarh, we could produce the one innovative approach in the form of PRS model. So nation has faced water stress problem in hard rock terrains. Most of the rivers getting dry are seasonal rivers, and for this condition we need to have to flow the water in the river. We must to understand the concept of watershed. When we talk about the watershed, we are confined to the quantum of runoff in the watershed area, and we are estimating the runoff. So more important aspect of the planning is we have to understand the concept of watershed in terms of their functional mechanism of the watershed would be the PRS model. These PRS models means we have to understand the percolation zone, percolation area, and we have to understand the recharge area, and third one is a retardation. These three things has to be understood in proper way and proper location, proper zoning. So what are the challenges we could understand in terms of facing the water crisis? First is that we have to formulate a sustainable management plan. CW has given the base for the aquifer mapping, groundwater management intervention. In our work, we have formulated this sustainable management plan to the Gram Panchayat level so that we can understand that how much need of the village area is to be fulfilled through the recharge potential or percolation. And the important challenges is a feasible intercept of the different parameters of the PRS model. These are the different parameters: geospatial, parameters and is a groundwater management, aquifer mapping concept. This has to be amalgamated and merged into the output in the form of aspect relationship. Say, if you want to have the geomorphology and percolation gen, you should have at least a lithological characteristic and the characteristics of the rock behavior at the particular zone. So we have to understand these challenges, and the ultimate, we wanted to have the design of the intervention plan. So for that, we need to have the seasonal post-monsoon water level. Always this seasonal post-monsoon water level has to be understood in respect of the area of watershed area, in the recharge worthy areas. We have to understand this seasonal water level fluctuation with the intercept of the aquifers. So that with the variation of the in the area and the vertical variation of the seasonal fluctuation, that gives the interpreted form of the how much potential is available in the subsurface stadium to have the recharge condition for the area. This is all about and we have made this, we have implemented this PRS model in the two granite terrain, and another one is a basalt. So you can see this one micro watershed we have planned for Harpal is north of the Chhatarpur district in Bundelkhand region, where Harpalpur facing the water crisis since more than 45 years. With this PRS model, you can see this, the one quartz reef is passing through the granitic terrain that develop the hydrothermal activity and form the weathered zone of the granite. And we have traced this thickness of the weathered granite, and it has a correlation with the lineaments of the area that has given the wonderful result within a one season. Very important, because whatever we pour in the granitic area, the important aspect of the granite in India is the thickness of the weathered zone. If you understand properly the thickness, it should have more than 5 meter thickness, then recharge potential can be developed in the area. We have constructed 3 important intervention plan. One is the groundwater taming, exactly at the slope of the pediment in the form of a small basin with the recharge shaft that has given impact on the more than 7 to 8 kilometer, and the total watershed area has given an impact of more than 950 hectare area. That means if you have planned properly in the plan manner, you will get the success of the saturation of the system. This result has, you can enumerate in the form of land use pattern. Even you can have the changes in the land use within 1 year, and all the ductwell has written the water. All the ductwell have been written, and you can understand that the so difficult this terrain. So we have to understand the declining zones and its relation with the land of the area. Next. This is another example of the basalt. Basalt has to be understood in the form of basaltic interflow contact. Normal condition in normal practice in the nation, nobody is considering the interflow contact that gives the aquifer contact of the basalt. So we have mapped through PRS model this. You can see that the top of this watershed, we have got the hatching of the vesicular contact is the disposition of this aquifer, and it has a thickness of more than 22 or 23 meter. Different flow contact has been enumerated in this manner. You can understand that this flow has a major role in the saturation, sustainability, and security of the water in the watershed area. And that means we are more important to have the best flow augmentation in the watershed area, so that we can have the sustainability and security of the watershed area. And ultimately the aim is to flow the perennial water along the Nala or river. This watershed has a resultant for the volume of the 4.5 meter runoff water. And you see this, we have just some 5 to 10 structures, percolation tanks, recharge shaft, and the ductwell recharge. This impact has been registered more than 100 square kilometer area, and linearly it has solved the problem of the 7 villages. This is the impact of this Harpalpur model of the granite terrain. Before watershed, the irrigation was 2779, and it after having the implementation of this project planning 3670 is become a impact of the watershed. And the surface recharge what we got previously it was 376 MCM and it has gone up to the 1500 MCM. So that means impact of the proper planning in the PRS model will give the wonderful result, and these are the result. And with the conclusion, PRS model, if you have the concept of this creation and concept of the planning to execute in the watershed area, it will give the wonderful impact, and it will be the game changer for the watershed area. Thank you. I will hand over to Mr. He will give the scale up of the planning.
Thank you, Dr. Joshi, for taking us through the scientific journey of the PWRS model. And in the last part, the institutionalization part, that how we are trying to see things through this international cooperation between GIZ and Government of India's Ministry of Rural Development Department. So I need the last slide. I need a minute to conclude. It's not yet concluded, sir. The last slide, please.
It finished in 7 minutes, so I knew there is a sting in the tail. So you still have 8 minutes by my watch,
1 minute, sir.
including the leftover, which Amit was kind enough to donate to your session.
Yeah, thank you. So I need the last slide here, please. Yeah. By the time it comes. So in this cooperation, how do we try to incorporate things, or how do we try to institutionalize the facts and figures and streamline with the government? Currently here with the second last. So currently with the Madhya Pradesh government, what we have done, Madhya Pradesh has 313 development blocks, out of which, as per CGWB's 2020 groundwater assessment report, that has been categorized into critical, semi-critical, and overexploited blocks. So there are 81 such blocks which has been categorized in this manner. Initially, with the technical support of our partners, MA Environmental Consultancies, we did the groundwater intervention management planning for all these 81 blocks. Post which has approximately more than 44,000 type of structures, groundwater recharge structures identified. Now in this mode, what more has to be done? So this the process of institutionalization is the crucial component here, wherein more than 2,000 plus technical workforce, or the technical workforce of Manrega, MGNREG of the Rural Development Department, were trained and oriented in this process, out of which the master trainers were identified. So now these processes are being carried forward in other development blocks. So as currently, it has now gone up to 130 development blocks. Groundwater plans have been prepared for those. So this entire process, this is how the German cooperation is actually facilitating or working with Government of India in streamlining the processes that we have adopted. We really appreciate and thank you for all your patient hearing. Thank you so much.
I think the next speaker ought to be, keeping the trend of the presentation, Mr. Nishyam Malhotra from
Sir.
NWPRS Kharkwasla. Is he there? Yeah. Incidentally, I don't know if many in the audience are aware that Central Water Power Research Station at Kharkwasla, Pune, it was involved by the Honorable Supreme Court in the Mulla Paryar Dam, when it was supposed to be endangered. They sent the submersible down and came out with a study for which the Supreme Court in its judgment also had given accolades to this particular organization. And Mulla Paryar, by the way, is the second oldest lime mortar dam in the world. The oldest is somewhere in Great Britain, probably in UK. I just thought I'll share this
Yes, sir.
with you.
Yeah, CWPRS is a 1916 old organization, pre-independence it was formed, basically working on hydro projects, dams and other things. So a very good, warm good morning to everyone. Today, I would be presenting on corporate social responsibility scheme to address the water issues. So I'll be discussing one of the policies adopted by one of the states of India to bring in CSR funds for rejuvenating of the water bodies, lakes. So I will start my presentation. So, as we are well aware कि water scarcity is a global challenge. We have 18% of the world population, but only 4% of the water resource available. Our water table is going day by day down, and there's an intense scarcity. So we need some fundings projects for basically solving these issues. So there's a scheme called corporate social responsibility. So this fund is basically whatever companies which are working in India are governed by Indian Company Act. So any company whose turnover is basically above 1,000 1,000 crores and having a net worth of more than 5,500 crores has to dedicatedly spend 2% of the net profit on CSR sectors. These are basically education, sports, livelihood, different heads like health, environment, animal welfare. So anything they can spend on. So basically they have to spend 2% of the net profit every year. So if you see the trends in last 3 years, in terms of under the head environment of CSR, Maharashtra, Karnataka, and Andhra Pradesh are the top leading states having expenditure on highest on the environment. But if you do further detailed analysis, Karnataka is approximately spending 12% to 14% on the environmental sector, whereas national average is somewhere between 7 to 8%. So Karnataka is one of the leading states to spend on environmental under the head of CSR environmental head. So the objective of this presentation of the paper is to highlight the work done by the government of Karnataka and the models adopted or the policies adopted by the state under which has welcomed the basically fundings from the MNCs under their CSR heads. So the study area is basically basically Karnataka, but I will restrict it to the state capital, that is the Bangalore. So the Bangalore in the early decade has basically witnessed a shift of rain pattern because of climate change. The groundwater table was falling. Their bore wells were running dry across the boundaries. So issue was basically these lakes were getting dried. They have around 210 lakes under under basically different custodians. So what was the solution to it? So basically the state has framed some policies which has welcomed the funds from the companies and they have tapped successfully the CSR funds. So they have adopted two models. The one model is basically citizen group model and the other one is corporate model. This I will be discussing further in detail. The first model is basically where citizens come together and they bring the CSR fund. So there is a lake nearby, they will have some residents, they will come together, they will form a trust. This trust will approach the urban local body who's responsible for maintaining the lake. So once they approach, they will enter into MOU with this or memorandum of understanding to maintain the lakes, for which further they will approach different people, community, or institution to bring the CSR fund. This model has been successfully functioning in the state since 2011. Just to give a glimpse, MAPSIS is maintaining Saulkere, Kaigondahali, Amblapura, Harul Lake. Puthaneli Lake is being maintained by Puthaneli Lake Stud. So this model is very successful since 2011. The other model is basically corporate-based model, where government of Karnataka will approach corporates. They will enter into a four-party agreement. The first party will be revenue department. The second party will be the custodian of the lake. The third party will be the Karnataka Lake Conservation Development Authority, who is responsible for maintaining all the lakes of the state. Then the fourth party will be the corporate industry who's taking up this lake rejuvenation. By this, they were able to tap much more CSR funds. Just to give a glimpse, Bharat Electronics Limited have funded around 13.5 crore for rejuvenating our Dodbam Sindara Lake. We have Titan Company which have funded around 12 crore for maintaining Veer Sandra Lake. Then we have many other like Wipro, HP, Qualcomm, GE. Biocon has taken some two of the lakes. So this model is also very successful. So these two models are like, if it's replicated across the country, this models are restricted to the states only, states of Karnataka. So if it is replicated across the India by different states, funding can be brought under CSR for the rejuvenation of the water bodies or lakes. So this is a win-win situation for all the stakeholders, be it government, be it society, be it corporates. Both citizen and corporate model has worked successfully. These models need to be replicated at the national level to solve the water crisis and management issue. With this, I will conclude. Thank you.
Nishchay, now in summing up, I'm going to ask you about a couple of lakes in Karnataka, the dry bodies in
Yes,
the
sir.
Hassan district. Not now,
Ah.
at the end of the summing up.
Right.
And second is, I would also be asking about your viewpoint about the old-fashioned water bodies in the driest parts of the country, in, let's say, Gujarat, Saurashtra, and Rajasthan, and Western Madhya Pradesh, in the backdrop of the Radhesham Julania initiative, which has drawn acclaim at even the Stockholm World Water Week summits. So that'll give you time to,
Yes, sir. Sure.
think about it. Now, the next speaker would be, I think, a colleague from CWC, Neeraj Kumar Sharma. Release of Central Assistance, AIBP and CAD-WM. Now, with my limited knowledge of the water resources sector, I would say this particular thing is the most difficult politically charged issue. It's, sometimes at one extreme it becomes water everywhere and not a drop of drink. And on the other, it becomes, in Hindi they say, ek anar sau bimar. So it's a trade-off between the two. And mind you, anybody who handles this portfolio at whatever level, in CWC or in the ministry, उनके सिर के बाल उड़ जाते हैं. They lose a lot of hair. I think with these light-hearted remarks, over to you for the next session.
Mr. Chairman. Yes, sir. So good morning to all of you. My name is Neeraj Kumar Sharma. So in this session 8, in which there is a collaboration of water governance region. So here I thought it is better to represent how the government of India immensely contribute in ensuring food security of nation. So through providing the aid to the state governments. So my topic is in which how the CA release been given to the state governments. So I have taken one case study. So these are the central sponsor schemes. We know AIBP and CAD-WM. And in 2015, Honorable Prime Minister launched PMKSY scheme, under which there are two components, AIBP and then Har Khet Ko Pani. Under Har Khet Ko Pani, there are 4 components, in which CAD-WM is one of them. And it comprises of surface managed schemes, RRR of water bodies, and also the groundwater development. So my focus is on AIBP and CAD-WM right now. Basically, AIBP is we are creating the irrigation potential. And CAD-WM is means we are how to utilize that created irrigation potential. So under PMKSY, these schemes, we are providing central assistance through LTA fund, long-term irrigation fund. And guidelines are properly published by our department. For AIBP, these are the latest guidelines issued in February 2022. Here, the point is that up to the 20% escalation, there is no problem, provided there is no change in the scope of work. But beyond 20%, if go, then we will go for the FTPC, that is fast track performa clearance. So this case study which I have taken, it includes this one. Okay, and there is a three-type tire monitoring system from field office of CBWC in overall pan India. It is stabilized, and from that the proposals received from the various state governments, they examine and then forward to the central headquarter CWC at Delhi, and then they further forward it to the ministry state projects wing. See, these are the some of the guidelines. Okay, so I will skip this one. And similarly for KWM, these are the guidelines issued very well, means prepared. Similar thing here also, the monitoring system is there. Now I will come to the this in KWM system. These are the components, various activities, structural interventions and non-structural interventions. These are the cost norms have been given. So now that this case example I have taken in the Pench project in Chhindwara district of Madhya Pradesh. So initially, actually, this project comprises of CC of 70,918 hectare, and ultimate irrigation potential of 96,519. But those projects AIBP, which we are considering into AIBP funding, which are in advanced stage of completion, whether I mean within 2 to 3 years. That's why it has divided into the two parts. Phase 1 projects have been taken, and only IP of 28,268 has been considered. And these are the silent features. Now, first I will discuss about the AIBP. Okay. Okay, right, sir.
Otherwise,
Okay, right. So my main focus is I have to show the calculation part, how the complexity is involved in this. So it initially once the at the time of inclusion of any projects, once the CA release has been at time frozen. So initially at 2006, if we see at 342 crore for AIBP works has been considered, and previous expenditure before inclusion of AIBP, it has been rupees 31.22 crore. That has been deducted, and ultimately coming latest approved project is coming as 110.78 crore. And I will show in the template format. It is a little better. See, here we are considering since it is a continuing scheme from 2007 onwards, and now we are taking the base level at 2012 level. So the same since there is no change in the enhance in the price, this is kept as same. Now since I have told that already expenditure has been made, and the cost has been increased beyond 20%, so they have gone for FTPC. And what are the enhanced cost? It will be borne completely by the state government. So, but once the CA has been already fixed at 310.78 crore. So now it will see eligible cost of project, and balance cost on which CA to be provided is 103. So this is very important term. Now, we are considering, since 2015 onwards, 16 onwards, PMKSY has been launched, under which properly 2016 onwards funding is been given. So we are considering at 2012 price level, and then now, since this is not in a special category states where 90% center share is being given, and it also does not come under the drought prone area where the 60% share is given. Since it is a normal category state, so 25% we have taken. So if we see 25% is English, and accordingly, point number 16, balance sheet provided after 2015 is multiplied by that percentage. Next. Okay. So similarly, for various years, we are calculating. And now 2016 onwards, we have also come to the conclusion that it remains as same 25.989. So this is huge calculation involved, and the right extreme side, I've given the formulas. And maximum means we are all with the proposal, the expenditure statements we have means based on this CA is released based on the physical and financial progress. So how the means how much expenditure has been incurred during the years, and now CA released. This has been shown. So ultimately, eligible CA coming for is 10.51 crore. And also on the basis of budget provisions, it came out same. So this proposal we have provided, and some observation has been raised by PMO, which we have complied. Ultimately, final outcome is that SPR being when it comes to the ministry, then they observed that what are the 10.49 crore, though it is means not been released in March, it got released in the April. So that year they are telling that it is it included in this year 2020-21, which this proposal has been came. So there, if I will show in this expenditure detail. See, 2019-20, it is written. CA release 2019-20 last one 10.49. Actually, it is not released in up to March 2020. It is released in the April 2021. So that's why they are telling this proposal already means released in 2021. So it will not be considered. So this has been completely means returned, and state government has been conveyed. Now I will come to the CAT-WM part. This is also a very important part. Since I have told that this is a very big project, so based on the because CAT-WM has been taken after in parity with the AIBP program, that in parallel it should be completed with a lag of 1 or 2 years. So this has been the CC has been considered as 22 CCC 68. It is on the basis of the CCA. So all the performance are there, physical, financial, MEU, checklist, or list formulas are there. This also a huge complexities is there. In this, various activities has been shown total and how much has been completed. Actually, in structural component, various field channels, land leveling and micro irrigation, mandatory for 10% in the command area should be there. And these are the structural parts. And now, when coming to the non-structural part, that is water user association and other things are involved. So this, based on the data, whatever the physical and financial progress we have provided, these. And functional grant and infrastructure grants, water user association, ensuring that the equitable distribution of water should be going through Varavandi system, that is rotation of supplies. So this training component, and then, so finally, this eligibility has been completed as 73 lakhs. And now these are screenshots of the, because online systems is there, MIS system, management information system, based on the budget provisions and other things, utilization certificate, it's calculated on the cost norms. So this I'm showing, and finally, the clarification has been raised. Yet it is SPR being has CAT-WM being they are analyzed that 73 lakhs, it has enhanced to 91.5 lakhs. So the we have replied that it has been considered because non-accounting of 30 lakhs, which we have already provided in Access CA released. So, and also the pre-filled figures of utilization in MS portal. So final outcome is that finally they have released the 30 lakhs. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman,
Dheeraj gave a very detailed technical presentation. So I'd just like to mention, one of the problems that he didn't mention was the presence of tigers in the nearby tiger reserve and the objections from certain quarters about disturbing the topography and terrain of that area so that the honorable tigers of that area don't get disturbed. Thank you. Now, finally, we come to the last speaker, and that would be like the dessert on the presentation. That is the one and only Sri Gurunathan of Dhan Foundation. Please give him a big hand.
Dr. Alokji, Honorable Chair, the co-presidents on the dais, and the respected delegates of the dais. So very good morning to all of you. At the first outset, I thank the organizers of India Water Week for giving me an opportunity to present an action research project carried out by Dhan Foundation in India. It is a South Asia regional capacity building project funded by US Department of States and Caritas Switzerland. So we are the implementing partner. We were the implementing partners for India, and there were co-partners from Nepal, Sri Lanka, and Bangladesh. So the agri-water pollution in this region is very, very alarming, because in this region we produce more of cereals, water consuming cereals like rice and wheat. So it use intensive use of inorganic fertilizers, pesticides, and also the growth promoting hormones for livestock promotion. So it ultimately led to the severity of agricultural water pollution. So how do we address this issue at a policy level? So we did a policy research going to various policies of Government of India, state government, and this is the outcome of that 3-year project I am going to present. Before that, Dhan Foundation is a national professional development organization having headquarters in Madurai, Tamil Nadu. But we work in 16 states across India with 24 lakh household. So 24 lakh household on alleviating the poverty of poor women, farmer, fishermen. So there are very different thematic verticals Dhan Foundation is implementing through the community-centric approach. So last 25 years, we have been working on the water sector, mainly on the surface water bodies, conservation of surface water commons like tanks, ponds, and lakes, and other things in these states. So this, next please. So can you change? Yeah, as I said, the India, nearly about 55% of land mass in India is used for agriculture purpose, and as per the groundwater Central Groundwater Board assessment, nearly about 70% of the surface and groundwater is contaminated. Mainly when we talk about agri-water pollution, it is on the nitrate, the quantum of nitrate present in the groundwater, and how does it create harmful for the environment. Next, please. So these are all some of the trends over these years. Because one of these cause for overdose of fertilizers is our government populist measures of subsidies, fertilizer subsidies, and that also made the farmers to use more of overdose of inorganic fertilizers with nitrogen and phosphorus fertilizers. So which any excess use of excess application of fertilizers, both nitrogen and phosphorus, ultimately get leached into groundwater, and it accumulates, and the level of the nitrate and phosphate and other contamination is on the rise. So these are all some of the data over from 2011 to 2017. The data shows there is alarmingly the usage is going up, because on the one side people may argue second highly populated nation in the world need to secure food security for its population. So the ultimate agriculture productivity is a major concern. So whatever maybe you produce, whether you use it more of fertilizers or pesticides, ultimately the food security is at the top of the agenda. But if you see the paradigm, the costs ultimately, and the negative impact on the environmental side is what major worry. So we went through the various policies, because as far as the water is, as per constitution, it is in the state list. It is not a part of concurrent list. So many time, so the issue is in whose, whether it is in the arms of state government or it is in the central government. There are also various ministries. I mean, within the Jal Shakti, there are various divisions, Central Water Commission, and so many agencies are attributing to particular issues of water resource management, the resource management plan. So how are we going to address these as a policy level? So that is where we go through. Though we all of you are aware about national water policy, where there is one clause we says is a polluter pays concept, and Central Pollution Control Board is the regulator of the pollution in water bodies. Mainly they monitor the pollution at the river level, and also the outlet and non-point and point solution of most of the industries, effluent and other things. That is where. But on the farm level and other things, the pollution is not being monitored, whether it is a non-point source pollution or point source pollution. So that is how this, in a policy level, how will we address this? Next, please. Next, please. So the policies, when we go through this, these are all some of the gaps. One is the water ownership. As I said, water it's a state subject. Who will own it, the issue, whether it is state or central? And the water availability is another issue, wherein the people excessive use of water, and ultimately, as I said, the subsidies and other populist measures of government encourage farmers to use over-based stores, and which ultimately result in water pollution. And there is no policy framework to control both contingent use of surface and groundwater. Because it's a water right, again, it's whoever is owning a piece of land, so water below the land belongs to them, because by nature of the proprietary rights, so water is owned by the person who is owning the piece of land. So extensive unscrupulous pumping of surface water and result in a lot of deposition of this pollutant on the soil, and the soil fertility is coming down, and the production comes down. It's a vicious circle. Once the production comes down, the application or overdose goes up. It's more like a vicious circle. And again, for this thing like an ad hoc resource allocation for the entire integrated perspective of water management, the ad hoc resource allocation by both central and state, and how do you monitor this whole as an institutional structures besides Central Pollution Water Control Board on this issue is also the important policy gaps which need to be addressed. Next, please. Next, we did some 2-3 field pilots for 2 years. Mainly, how do you bring down the fertilizer used by the farmers? One is on the biochar, application of biochar as a soil moisture retention. And it is along with farmyard manure and biochar mix, it brings down the need of nitrogen requirement in the soil, and thereby the urea and other nitrogen fertilizers consumption has been brought down, and the yield is not much affected. So yield is also, but this type of technology, though it is available in various state agriculture universities, how do you make this technology to the reach of the farmers and make them to practice it in extensively and bring them? But there is also a lobby by the corporates. If the fertilizer, these things comes down, then the businesses get affected. So it is a great, like a prisoner's dilemma type of theory. How do we address this issue? One is on biochar we addressed. Another one is on the surface water bodies. Next, please. Next, please. It is only a surface water body. It's a peri-urban tank in Madurai. It is a tank where it is lot of water is untreated sewer and other type of water get mixed in this water body. There is high BOD and COD. It is not very much quality water to apply for irrigation, but farmers use this water to grow paddy and other things. So we use the floating wetland system and biowells and other type of technologies to reduce the pollutant load in the surface water, and thereby the quality of water, groundwater is also the level of POD and COD in the wells adjoining the tanks, it is also brought down. So this is also being experimented in the lakes, in some of the lakes in Bangalore, which the previous presenter, so Mahadevpura Lake and other things, near IIT Powai Lake is also follows this. So these type of success models, we need to take it to the implementation. So ultimately this research, this thing, we recommended a policy, integrated water policy, which addresses a separate or additional section for agri-water pollution, either in a national agriculture agriculture policy, or national water policy should include a policy recommendation where the rational nitrogen application should be encouraged, and especially the soil health card and other things government agriculture department is giving, but that has to be rationalized, and everyone should test the soil, and they should get a recommended usage of the inorganic fertilizers, and then they have to. So there should be some sort of a value chain mechanisms so that this nitrogen application gets reduced. And similarly, when you increase the vegetation cover, so that also reduces, it fixes the nitrogen into the soil, and the nitrogen need is getting down. And similarly, how do you manage the period between one crop to other, like a shifting cultivation and other type of technologies, and thereby reducing the nitrogen load or other phosphorus load, and rotational irrigation system, and optimization of other cultivation techniques. There are a lot of successful agriculture techniques are available for the fertilizer or high fertilizer pesticide intensive crop like rice, sugarcane, and banana and other type of crops, vegetable crops. So how will you reduce the pollutant or the source of pollutant in cultivation practice? Because we cannot forego the agriculture in the cause of this thing, but how do we judiciously use these external input measures for agriculture and food security? That is what matter, for which the policy action or policy amendment should happen at all level, both at state and at central level, because we work in various agroclimatic zone. So policy is just a guideline, but regional specific or state specific policy is the need of the hour. That is what our finding. With that, I thank the chair and other presenters and also the audience for giving this opportunity. Thanks one and all. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Hello. Now,
Mr.
we
Chairman.
still have about 12 minutes left in the session. There are two ways to utilize it. One is the question and answer session, followed by summing up by the chair. Second option is summing up by the chair, followed by the question and answer session. Because yesterday and day before, I know a number of sessions where the time margin was overshot, and the result was the participants were deprived of their cup of tea. So you won't like that to happen. So what I'll do is give me about 2 to 3 minutes. I'll quickly try to do a bit of summing up.
Mr.
And then
Chairman.
it would be open for
Mr.
question and
Chairman.
answer.
Mr. Chairman, can you hear me? Mr. Chairman.
2.5 minutes for moment of presentation. Okay, let's
Mr.
compromise.
Chairman, can you hear me?
One point. See, we are having the water conclave, and the paradigm is water security, be it availability of water, be it sharing of water, be it better utilization of water, be it water collaborative approach, or it can be even governance of the water. But the root of this is the security. See, when we were students, or at least when Gurunathan ji and I were students, at that point of time,
security meant that the military security, wars. Then the other paradigms came, like economic security, energy, that is petroleum security, especially in the 70s. Then came food security, off and on droughts in Sahel belt and a lot of countries in the world. Then came trade security. Then two more securities came, water security at that point of time, cyber security and terrorism security. In the 70s, water security was considered as number 10 on a scale of 1 to 10 as a global threats to peace. In about 30 years' time, it climbed up to number 6 or number 5, and now it has gone up to either number 2 or number 3. Of course, the shifting will always take place as and when the new security threats come. Like, for example, one of the potential threats would be the semiconductor and the computer chips. We all read in the newspapers the global shortage of semiconductor chips, etc. Then the pharmaceutical and vaccines. You are having COVID, you are having all sorts of these vaccines. Then the climate change, which is closely linked to water shortages, is going into a back burner. Now, this is a sort of a chakravyuh. What happens? What is the way forward? Like one of the speakers in yesterday's one of the presentations, he mentioned that better usage of saline water. But then the technology is very, very expensive. Improvements are taking place. But although in our country, we are much above the Falcon mark, the benchmark of the per capita annual availability, we are below, but not all that below. But that is the technology in our context is more suited for like what happened in the Minsar Basin River project. That is erosion of seawater into the freshwater aquifers. There is on Google, you do it. Those who are interested can find out the success. I am told in about 5 years' time, the freshwater levels went up, the salines went down in most of the basin area. Then see, Amit made a mention about water being in the state list. See, I have put in 38 years plus in government sector. The funny thing is that the honorable members of parliament, when in Delhi, in Rajya Sabha or Lok Sabha, they say water must be in concurrent list or water must be in central list. But when they go back to their states, they say, no, water should remain in the state list. It's a conundrum. I mean, think about it. What can be the solution? Then Mr. Joshi, I think Devin and his partner, they spoke about what they learned from groundwater in Madhya Pradesh and how the improvements were affected by them. Point is, something that struck me while they were talking, recently sanctioned Ken-Betwa link project. It is also covering 14 districts, 7 in MP, 7 in UP, including Jhansi and Lalitpur districts. In 4 years' time, the linkage hopefully should be completed. Maybe it will have an impact on whatever study they have done. So for their consideration, I would recommend that the part 2 of the study in the same area you may like to do after the Ken-Betwa linkage has been completed and 1 or 2 years have passed so that water seepage into the groundwater and others take place. Then I think I did mention about the, I think what was that? Pench River project. the tigers. Yes, it was certainly a problem. It was a problem for the Ken Betwa link project. I do remember in the year 2013, there was a meeting organized by the Environment and Forest Ministry Secretary. I had just joined the Water Resources Ministry. Maybe I would have been about 3 weeks old or maybe one fortnight old. My colleague and friend, Secretary Environment, told that I must come. And I think that is after Shamal Sarkar, who was supposed to be co-chair, had left the ministry.
No, I am
Anyway,
here. I am here.
there was a presentation and others. The 14 lakh
I
to
am
20
here.
lakh people had to leave these dry wells and go to Rajasthan, Delhi, etc. for working on road projects, etc. because for 4 years there was no rainfall. I do remember the water table had gone down so much, the land subsided, and in one hut, 5 or 6 members of a family, including small children, they died in that 15, 20 feet, 25 feet. It had gone down. Now, the issue is, what do I say in that meeting? So, well, they thought I am a soft target. Maybe I've got a soft looking face, or maybe I'm a newcomer to water ministry. So I was a target of, let's say, should I use the word verbal onslaught or target of suggestions by the honorable members of the environmental fraternity. So they shot their piece and they said, we need 3 years to study the habitat of tigers. We need 4 years. You will cover some areas by submergence. How will the tigers acclimatize to the new? And 92% was remaining, 4% was coming under submergence, and about 3% was across the storage area. So in my innocence, I said, Baba, all the tigers I know, at least in Sundarbans, they only climb up the trees to sleep. All the other time they are swimming in river. So I was told these are not Sundarban tigers, these are white tigers or pink or blue or whatever it is color. What is your solution? And there are 3 of them. Now what solution? So my solution was, sir, my ministry will provide them with 3 motorboats. It will provide them with diesel, petrol, whatever fuel is required. It will provide the boatman. The tiger just has to come to his motorboat, ask the boatman to take them across to the water body to the other part and bring it back. So half of them started laughing, environmentalists. So I said, but one condition, you'll also have to do one thing. Bataiye. I said, you'll have to take life insurance for the 3 boatmen if the tiger decides to eat them up. About 90% of the people, they laughed and laughed, but 10% said, you people think it's a joke and all that. Now, this background I am citing, when the present government took over in Delhi, way back in 2014, 12 days after that, the session started with 4 ministries, 5 ministries, secretaries being called to by the Prime Minister, give a 10-minute presentation, and then question and answer session. Flabbergasted. The Honorable Prime Minister Modi ji knew what I had told the environmentalists. You know, with a straightforward face, having problems in some water projects. What about your solution that you propose? I knew that Prime Minister knew, but in the next sentence, he spoke about the Minsar River Basin project, which was in the second stage out of its 4 years. This thing. He told me that you studied that also. It is preliminary results are good. Of course, I studied, and the results are good for the coastal aquifer. So, point is that it is a collaboration between the elected representatives of the people, the panchayats, the engineers, the technocrats, the bureaucracy, the media, and whatnots. Lastly, I need not say anything about Dhan Foundation because I don't know what to say. We see the sun outside. We don't describe the sun. Sun is well known. So is Dhan Foundation known to everybody. But one point I would like to flag. See, one point was made that the excess use of water and the fertilizers, it causes damage. We have heard in Punjab and Ropar and some areas above this has happened. But surprisingly, about 10 years back, one delegation from our country had gone across the border into Pakistan in the lower echelons of the Indus River Basin, Sindh Nadi Basin, in southern Punjab and upper Sindh, they found that due to excessive fertilizers and excess water, usar, ray, you know the white thing, it had leached and the productivity has nosedived. It's there. The satellite pictures also confirm. So we have to be aware. And I think my 2.5 minutes have become, I was watching my ghadi, it has become more like, no,
Yes,
it
the
became
time.
7 minutes.
No, sir, the time is almost up. It's 11:20.
So I think, ma'am, please indulge me by allowing question and then we can have the award presentation. And whosoever wants to ask the question can also say, sir, the presentation, everybody was so good that we are left with no questions. Over to you, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman,
We can have one question if anyone wants to ask.
Mr. Chairman, I have one question.
I think, sir, the presentations were really insightful and everyone enjoyed, listening to all the presenters. So now I request Mr. N. Mukherjee, Director, Project Appraisal South, CWG, to please come up on the stage to present the mementos to our distinguished chair, Dr. Alok. Also, I would like to thank our esteemed co-chair, Dr. Shamla Kumar Sarkar.
Yeah, I am here. I am here.
This is for co-chair. Now I request Mr. Mukherjee to present the mementos to all our eminent speakers, Gurunathan A., Mr. Amit Mishra, Mr. Sanjay Marwa, Mr. Amit Mishra, Mr. Nishay Malhotra, Mr. Devendra Joshi, Mr. Saurabh Pahari, and Mr. Neeraj Kumar Sharma. Thank you so much to all the eminent speakers, our distinguished chair and co-chair for joining us today, and we hope to see you next year soon. And I request all the audience to please be seated. We'll be starting with our next session at 11:40. Thank you so much.